Typically, with the polyvagal theory, we discuss it in terms of a ladder. So we go to the top or we slide down the bottom, a little bit like snakes and ladders. We have the ventral vagal system at the top, which is where we feel our most safe and secure. Then we slide down into sympathetic, where we go into a flight fight kind of state. And then we have our dorsal vagal collapse, which is where we immobilize. And the language very often is moving up and down this ladder, and the ventral vagal being the most important thing at the top. There's another way to look at it, which is actually more accurate and more in line with Porges' recent discussions on the dorsal vagal system. Instead of having a ladder model, I propose a triangle model, which is far more interesting when we start talking about the second branch of the parasympathetic nervous system. Firstly, I want to make it clear that these are always blended states. We can talk about these ventral vagal, sympathetic, immobilized as if they're distinct states, or a fawn state is a distinct state, but they're always blended states because they are intricate things that are going on in our internal physiology, our internal neurophysiology. And so this is a model of trying to understand what happens then. The polyvagal theory is great. The ladder model's reasonably good, but this triangle model just makes it so much more interesting and more accurate. Depending on a range of distinct factors, the dorsal vagus can move in different directions. One direction can be collapse and immobilization and dropping down the bottom of the ladder. But the other side of it, the dorsal vagal, is an aligned state, a deeply connected physiological state where we have access to higher order states, where we share intimacy with others, where we are soft, not using high order ventral vagal aspects, so not using our facial features as much, but our body is in a very, very calm and contained state. And we have very good access, like a martial artist when they get themselves into a deep state of dantian. They have very good hand-eye coordination and a capacity to regulate the physical system very well, and then interface beautifully with the world. On right at the other side of that line is the collapse, where we immobilize, where we have no choice. And so we, along this parasympathetic branch, we can go from total collapse and being inert to a very aligned state, but they're both parasympathetic. So where we have this line just sliding up and down the ladder, actually no, we have this capacity to move in a totally different direction along the parasympathetic line. And so what we have here, instead of a ladder model, going from ventral vagal sympathetic to immobilization and hoping to crawl ourselves back up the ladder to ventral vagal, we actually have a more complete and sophisticated understanding where we can actually go from ventral vagal down into dorsal vagal aligned. And so we have this way of being able to flow through different states. It's a much more complete model of understanding the parasympathetic line, which is an extremely wonderful part of our physiology. And so our bodies are able to go into all of these states. It's designed, everybody's body is designed to go into all of these states. Going into a hypotonic collapse state is an infrequent state that's supposed to be reserved for very, very special occasions, very, very high-end trauma. Very often, people's systems, for a variety of reasons, get stuck in that hypotonic state and they don't know how to get out of it. Or very often they're stuck in a hypertonic state where the body is constantly in flight-fight. And it's very hard to mobilize into that deep aligned state of restoration. What we want to promote is state flexibility, where you have control over your system, where you have a robust vagus system that allows you to have a through line that means you have choice to go into all of these states at your will, and the body is under your command, so that you don't collapse, so that you can respond at will, so that you can have access to your executive functioning and your working memory and your social system at will, so you can move yourself into a deep state of relaxation, so you can move yourself into a state where you are able to go to sleep. Our physiology is supposed to allow all of these things, and we can improve our condition so that we get a more robust system, a more robust internal system that we have a greater command over.